Did you ever feel like your money just disappears? Then you're not alone. In this episode, we'll be diving into the world of personal finance. Hi everyone, and I'm Wayne, and I'm passionate about helping people take control of their finances. Whether you're just starting out or looking to improve your financial habits, this podcast is for you. For years, I struggled to manage my money, but once I learned some essential financial skills, everything changed. Now I want to share that knowledge with you. At 36 years old, I was 70k in debt and fed up of not having any money. I learned about personal finance, cleared my debt using the Debt Snowball. I wish I'd learnt these skills sooner, and I want to help others to become proficient in personal finances, which is why I created Budget Blueprint and this podcast. Budget Blueprint can be found across all social media platforms, and the podcast will also be available on YouTube. Our relationship with money affects everything we do. From the groceries we buy to the holidays we take, it can impact our stress levels, our security, and even our relationships. By making smart financial decisions, we can reduce stress, achieve our goals, and build a brighter future for ourselves and loved ones. Today, I'll be laying this groundwork for a strong financial foundation. We'll explore essential skills like budgeting, saving, managing debt, and setting financial goals. By the end of this episode, you'll have a better understanding of these key concepts and feel empowered to take charge of your money. So, let's start with budgeting. How would you define budgeting? Budgeting is a process of creating a plan for your income and your expenses. This can be done in many ways, whether it's on a spreadsheet, in a book, or just on a piece of paper. So, what are the benefits of budgeting? Budgeting will help you take control of your finances, identify unnecessary spending, and help with your financial goals. There's two types of budgeting that I like to discuss. We have the 50-30-20 rule, which is 50% towards your needs, 30% towards your wants, and 20% towards your savings and your debt. And then there is the zero-based budgeting, where you allocate every single penny that you have towards your budget. My personal preferred method is the zero-based budgeting, and that is the method I use to pay off my £70,000 worth of debt. So how would you get started with budgeting? So you need to track your income, your salary, any side hustles, any benefits you may receive, any investment money that you may receive. And then you need to track your expenses. So any fixed costs like mortgages, or your rent, utilities, groceries, eating out, or entertainment. And then you should choose a tool. So as I mentioned previously, you have spreadsheets, pen and paper, a budgeting book, or there are apps out there. I think there is like the Emma app, which can help. So then you need to allocate your income. So your needs, your wants, and your savings, as said. And then you track your progress and adjust your budget. I remember when I created my first budget. And I allocated £400 for groceries. Now this was very silly and was not enough. I hadn't looked at how much we'd previously spent. I never knew how much was going out of the accounts really, which is why I was always in the overdraft. Why every month I wondered where the money had gone. So what you could do is you could do a financial audit. I've created a video on my YouTube channel which tells you how to create a financial audit, but you would basically use your last financial statement, statement for the month, and use that to create your first budget. So now we've spoken about budgets, let's talk about savings. Now why should you save money? So you need to have money for your emergency fund. You also need to be sort of for your short-term saving goals. So if you're going on a holiday or you're saving for a new car, then that could be like a short-term goal. And then your long-term goal would be towards your retirement. Talking about emergency funds, if you're out of debt, 3 to 6 months of finances, so use your budget that you've just created, look at your expenses, and you want 3 to 6 months as that emergency buffer fund to sit in a high yield savings account. If you're in debt, I would only recommend 1 month of emergency savings. And the reason I say this is because you want 1 month there, and the rest of the money you need to be putting into your debt to pay off your debt as quickly as possible. There are different ways of saving money. You can automate your savings by setting up a direct debit to a high yield savings account. So with a high yield savings account, you want instant access to your money. You don't want anything where you have to give a period of notice to withdraw your money. So ensure that your high interest savings account is instant access. You could also set up different savings accounts for different goals. So rather than just having one savings account, why not have 3 or 4 savings accounts, or however many you need for each different goal that you've set yourself. You could also use, if you have a Monzo account, Monzo lets you create specific pots. So you could have 4 different pots, and you could allocate different money to different pots depending on what your goals are. Why not, as a way of saving money as well, why not challenge yourself to like a no spend weekend, or like if you go out for coffee every morning, try going 3 mornings instead of 5 or 6. It's just different ways that you can try and save money. There are different kinds of savings accounts as well. You have, as I said, about a high yield savings account. You can have an ISA, which is obviously tax-free savings. There's stocks and shares ISAs. With a stocks and shares ISA, if you don't have an understanding of what a stocks and shares ISA is, before setting one up, I would recommend that you seek financial advice, because if you don't have an understanding of it, I wouldn't suggest you invest in something that you had no understanding of. I can't give financial advice, so it's best that you speak to a financial advisor. There also are pensions and SIP plans, and do some research if you need to understand what a SIP is, but it's a self-invested pension plan that is like a private pension. So I wanted to go on to talk about sort of good debt and bad debt. So for me, good debt is debt that invests in your future. So that would be something like student loans, where this can help you attain a higher paying job, so it will help you financially in the future. A mortgage can be a good debt because it prevents you paying rent, which some people think of as dead money. So you're not paying rent, and generally houses accumulate over time in value. So then we move on to bad debt. Credit card, because credit card interest is so high, that can be bad debt. And also if you're borrowing against something that depreciates in value very quickly, like a car, the moment you drive a car off the forecourt, it usually loses 20% because of the VAT. So stay away from things, from possessions that depreciate in value quickly. So to summarize, a bad debt is something that doesn't improve your financial future. So it's crucial to understand your financial goals when taking on debt, and by understanding the difference between good and bad debt, you can make good informed borrowing choices. So next I want to move on to the strategies for paying off debt. There's 3 strategies, but I only really advocate 2. Now the first strategy is the debt avalanche. Now the debt avalanche is where you list your debts from highest interest to lowest interest, and you would attack the highest interest debt first, making minimum payments on all the other debts. Once you've paid off the highest interest one first, you would move down to the next one with the second highest interest, and continue down. The next method is the debt snowball. Now the debt snowball is different in the fact that you list your debts from smallest to largest. You then pay off your smallest debt first, making sure you pay off minimum payments for all the other debts, move to the second debt. I personally used the debt snowball when I paid off my debt. I used the debt snowball. The reason I used the debt snowball was because I didn't really know anything else. I was at the beginning of understanding my finances. It's the only method I knew, but it was great. It was, I remember paying, taking me 3 months to save that emergency fund, which felt forever. And then within the next 2 months, I'd paid off 3 of my debts, which, and that sense of accomplishment, paying off those 3 debts to start with, was the start of my financial journey. And the feeling was great, just paying that debt off. By creating a budget, it can help you with your debt management. I created a spreadsheet that I had a year's worth of my money, as I was on a regular income. A year's worth of my money was planned out, and I knew how much debt I would get paid off in that year by following the budget that I'd create. And a third method is debt refinancing, where you would make your debt into one manageable monthly payment. I don't personally like this method, and I don't really advocate it. And the reason why is because you'll make your debt into one smaller payment, giving you, say you were paying £1,000 a month in your debt, and then you refinance it to £250 a month, that would give you £750 a month that you may feel that you could then start spending or start accumulating more debt. And you haven't learned the lesson from like the debt avalanche or the debt snowball of learning to manage your money and to pay off that debt. So personally, from my opinion, I don't like the refinancing side of things. I prefer to use the debt snowball or the debt avalanche. So goal setting. In this segment, I'm going to delve into the power of setting financial goals and how they can transform your relationship with money. Here's why financial goals are essential. They will give you direction and purpose. Financial goals will provide you with a clear roadmap for your money. They tell you what you're working towards, and whether it's saving for a house, paying off debt, or building that dream holiday. Without goals, your finances can feel directionless, making it easy to fall into impulsive spending. This leads on to motivation and focus. Having clear goals boosts your motivation to manage your money effectively. Every time you resist unnecessary spending or make a successful budget allocation, you're taking a concrete step towards your goals. This sense of progress fuels your motivation and keeps you focused on your financial journey, which gives you that sense of accomplishment. Reaching your financial goals is incredibly rewarding, whether you're paying off that credit card or saving down a payment. And this all leads on to reducing your financial stress. By managing your money and having these goals, it will make you less stressed about your money. This leads me on to the SMART framework, which I have already discussed previously in a video on YouTube. So SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. So specific, your goals should be clear and well-defined. Don't just say, I'm going to save more money. Instead say, I'm going to save £200 a month for a down payment on a house. And then make these, but these will be measurable. Track your progress through your budgeting, whether it's on a piece of paper or on a spreadsheet. So attainable. If you're struggling with payday to payday, then don't set your goal to be £1,000 a month savings, because this will be unachievable. So relevant. So your goals should be relevant. So align your goals with the overall financial picture. If you want to save for a house, then set your goal as saving for a house. But if you're in debt, I would probably recommend that you pay off your debt first before saving towards a house. And these goals should be time bound. So you should set the time bound of whatever, but you should say, for example, I need £6,000 in 12 months. So set that goal for 12 months time. What I use to track my goals is I use the calendar function on Outlook, and I will go to the date that I want that goal, and I will set that as an appointment on that day. That's the date I want my goal. You could also like put a piece of paper on the wall, somewhere you sit regularly, or maybe a card in your wallet to remind you of what your goal is. So short-term goals should be probably less than a year. So like building an emergency fund, or saving for a holiday, or paying off your credit card. And you should say, I'm going to pay off my credit card in 6 months, or I'm going to save for a vacation, which is going to take me 3 months, say. And then long-term goals, which will take longer than a year. So if you're going to save for a deposit on a house, then, I'm going to save a deposit for a house. This is going to take me 3 years. And then set a date in 3 years' time that you want to have achieved that goal. I would also encourage you to maybe speak to a friend or family and tell them what your goal is, and they can give you encouragement to help you along your way with that goal. So if you've made it this far into the podcast, I would like to challenge you to implement one of the things discussed today in the podcast, whether it be creating a budget, or setting a SMART goal, or listing all your debts from smallest to largest, or using the avalanche method. Take one positive step towards changing your financial future. Why don't you share your financial challenges with me, or send a question via email or social media? I have a Facebook group that you could join. Ask any questions in there. I'm happy to help. My email address is wayneironside@budgetblueprint.co.uk. So send me an email. But if you'd also like to be on the show to discuss some of your challenges that you're facing, then send me an email as well with the subject line podcast. Also, any questions that you may ask, I may feature in another show. So you may hear your question asked on the show, or you come on and ask the question. So let's recap the episode, what we've had. Personal finance is the art of managing your money to achieve your financial goals and live comfortably. So we've discussed budgeting and like 50, 30, 20 budgets and the zero-based budgeting. We've discussed savings, short-term goals, long-term goals, high-yield savings accounts, and some sort of different savings accounts that we've mentioned. We've mentioned debt management with the debt avalanche and the debt snowball method. And then we've also discussed SMART goals, setting SMART goals. So I'd like to thank you for listening to the podcast. If you'd like to be on the show, send me an email at wayneironside@budgetblueprint.co.uk with the subject line podcast, and then please leave a comment on what you'd like covered on future episodes. Next time I'm going to be covering the psychology of money and how your thoughts shape your spending habits.